Okay, so I have a question for you today. My question for you today is, why are you committed? Why are you committed to the things that you say you don't want to do? And there are an awful lot of things like in your life that you do that you say you don't want to do. So why are you doing them? Right? Like, really and truly, I want you to sit back on this question. I want you to ask yourself this. Why are you committed to doing the things that you say you don't want to do? So why are you committed to going to a job every single day that you don't want to do? Why are you committed to hanging out with people that you don't want to hang out with? Shyla Ray's making a visit here. Why are you committed to why are you committed to running certain like committees or certain social events that you just don't want to do, right? Like why are you doing things that you don't want to do? Your time is precious. Like, you only have 24 hours in a day. And the way that you spend this time needs to be doing things that you enjoy doing. Like, you only she's making her presence known. You only have so much time in a day. And why are you going to be wasting that time? Like, why are you wasting your life doing things that you don't want to be doing? Like, why are you actually committing yourself to these things, right? And a lot of times it's because we're holding on to some like bullshit story that we are telling ourselves and we really and truly believe to be true. A lot of the times these stories are a result of like how we were brought up. Our stories, like our parents' stories, become our stories, and their parents' stories became their stories. So it's like passed over generation after generation after generation. I was having a chat with a brilliant coach the other day who mentioned that, she has this really big need and this really big purpose to like help out different communities where with suicide rates are high. And the community that I live in, suicide rates are really high. It's because it's like this small farm town. There's not much to do, right? But it also just comes down to the mentality of the town. It like passes along from generation to generation to generation. And where I live, there's this real lack mentality. Like, it's like a crazy lack mentality. It's like off the charts, right? And so by this lack mentality, what I mean, like, some people might not have heard this term before. I know that if you're into coaching and things like that, you've definitely heard it. But what is the lack mentality? It essentially means that you feel as if like nobody will pay those prices when you live in this town. Like, nobody will do this. I'll never have enough money to do this. Like, this is only for rich people. This is only for this type of person. Like, you really and truly just believe that you are always meant to not have enough. And so you just sort of sit back in your fear and in your story, and you like step back into that and you say like, this is my story. And when you really and truly believe that, like, if you really and truly believe that like you can't get ahead because you live in a certain place, then you're never going to get ahead. Like, you're never actually going to do anything about it because your subconscious is going to hold you back into your story, right? Like, it's programmed to believe whatever it is that you tell it over and over and over and over again. And so if you literally just tell yourself over and over and over again, I need a steady paycheck, so I have to do this job that I don't love, or I have this expensive education, and so I have to do something in my field, or I have like whatever it is, whatever your story is that's like holding you in this space, then until you let go of the story, so until you kind of get down into like, why am I committed to this thing that I say that I don't want to do, until you get into that story, and until you can release that story, until you can release yourself on that limit, and until you can rewrite that truth for yourself, it's going to take some programming, right? Like, it's going to take you telling yourself the opposite over and over and over and over and over again, like every hour, right? Like every single hour, you're probably going to have to tell yourself, like, yeah, I can be successful in a small town. No, I don't have to move. Like, I really want to live here. This is where my family is. Like, this is where, like, whatever your reasons are for staying where you're at, you can kind of go with that, right? Like, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't even love living here, right? And I know that for me, I can pick up and move at any time, but I know that like my choice is to stay here because this is where my husband's job is, and like he is in his job and he likes being in his job, like, that's all just sort of like this different kind of thing and this different kind of story. So that's cool, but that's my choice. Like, I can't blame him for that, right? Like, I really can't. I can't blame him for that because I have the choice whether or not to be with him. Like, I have the choice whether or not to live with him. There are lots of couples who like commute. They're like commuter couples, right? Like, it's my choice that my relationship with him and like being with him is more important to me than like picking up and moving somewhere else. And so, but you really need to get down into your root story as to why it is that you are committed to doing something and then you need to be okay with it, right? Like, just stop bitching about it. Like, I'm not going to bitch about like, I live here because I'm making the choice to live here, right? So you really need to stop worrying so much about that. You need to get to the root of your story, and then you need to either become really okay with like where you're at or where you're going, or you need to say like, this is kind of bullshit, right? If it's an excuse, right? Like, so if it's not like you're prioritizing one thing over another, but it's an actual excuse and you're like, oh, well, I have to do this because like if have to is in your vocabulary, that number one is like red flag. This is a story. This is like a bullshit story that you're telling yourself, right? The words have to are like just like this big red flag. And so if you're telling yourself this, if you're like, I have to do this because I have to pay my bills, I have to do this, like, that is a lie that you're telling yourself. I'm sorry to say, like, you really and firmly, I'm sure 100% that you believe this as being true. Like 100%, you really believe that this is the truth. But what I need you to do is I need you to kind of step back and to say like, hey, like, this actually isn't the truth. I want you to go out and find stories about like, whatever it is. So I want you to find stories about people who have broken this truth and have broken these limits and have like proven the opposite of your story to be true, and to realize that like really and truly you aren't born with these stories, like you're kind of raised with them and you're sort of like bred into them, right? So it is possible to change that because you weren't born with these stories, right? So we think that like, oh, okay, we're getting older and wiser, like whatever else. Like we also get older and we start making a whole lot more excuses because we have a whole like long history of stories, right? And so that's something we have to be really careful of as we get older and older. Like when 12 years ago, right, when I was 20 years old, I didn't have very many stories. Like I was like, I'm capable of doing anything. And then into my 30s, I was like, I had to do a lot more work to really like set myself forward to, okay, this is what's holding me back, or like, okay, this is what's keeping me stuck, or okay, this is why I'm doing something. I'm committed to something that I don't love doing, that I don't want to be doing each and every day, because somewhere along the way, I've picked up this story, right? Like, so I've told this story a million times, like, when I used to work in banking, my boss would tell me, crank your chair up a few notches so that you appear taller, because when you're taller, you have more authority, right? And so she said, like, you need to be tall. So I'm like programming this story. I'm like 5'2", and so for me, programmed into my head, someone who's 5'2" can't have authority and can't like really stand out as a leader. And I had to sort of like reprogram myself around that, right? Because we like get these stories, and then all of a sudden, if I like made a sale that day with my chair higher up, I'm going to start to believe that story, right? And I'm going to see this as truth, and I'm going to say like, oh my gosh, I do have to do this in order to become successful. I do have to do this. And I'm just writing, and really it's a lie. Like, it's just like this lie that like somewhere in my life, something has validated that lie to me, and like I've just become blind to the fact that it is a story and it's a made up lie, right? So we seek out these validations when it comes to our stories, because it helps to keep us in our comfort zone, right? So when we're sitting here and we're saying like, hey, I need to dress a certain way in order to appear successful because this is what society has told me. And the last time somebody came into my store, like for an interview, and they were dressed as a bum, I automatically disregarded them. So it must be true, my sort of sense that I need to dress professionally. But really, you might have disregarded them because they came in and they were like, man, like here, like really like just didn't vibe with you or just wasn't a good fit for your job or like whatever it was, right? Like there could be a million different reasons why that person wasn't a good fit, but you're going to pull that one little thing to validate your story, okay? And so that you can stay in your comfort zone and so that you can keep believing the things that like you think to be true or you know, quote unquote, to be true, right? So I think it's really important for you to ask yourself this question: what is like, why is it that I'm committed to doing the things that I say that I don't want to do? So start diving into the stories, giving you like sort of this journaling exercise is something that I do with a lot of my clients when they're really stuck into something, when they're really telling themselves certain stories and they're saying like, I can't get this done because, or I have to do this because, right? Like if there's can't or have to in there, then we really need to get to the root of it. So, so guys, like if you are loving these videos, I would so appreciate any sort of feedback. I can see lots of you are watching them. You're watching them through and through. I'd love likes, comments, shares, like whatever it is. That would be super awesome. I so appreciate it. I love you. And, you know, let's talk a little bit about what to do if you are ready, what to do if you are like, you're getting past, you're like, you need some help cutting past your bullshit stories, but you're realizing that they're bullshit stories and you just really want to work with somebody and you really want to start taking massive action to, you know, 5x, 10x your business. You really want to start taking action to create massive visibility, to create some super great productivity in your life and to really craft your life and your business into something that you absolutely love. Shoot me a PM, shoot me an email, like whatever it is. If you're like, hey, I'm ready, let's go. Let's just like hit the start button. Let's do this. Shoot me a PM, shoot me an email, or you can also work with me through Step Up Society at stepupsociety.com. You're going to get a little like pop down where you can sign up for a free video, which is actually going to give you a slight sneak peek into that. You can read a little bit about what people have to say inside. You can kind of make your decision from there, but it's only $97 a month. So no excuses that way. Anyone can afford it. And you're going to get some weekly coaching and mentorship through me, through Step Up Society. So whatever is right for you, or if it's just watching these free videos, that's totally cool too. But whatever's right for you, I want you to get started on this journaling exercise. Ask yourself this question, and we will talk to you on another day. All right. Bye.